Morning, everybody. So last time we finished out Ezra, and before we jump into Nehemiah, I want to give you guys a little historical context about what we're going into. See, the book of Ezra and Nehemiah used to be one book called Ezra and Nehemiah. And when you get into Nehemiah, it seems to almost disrupt the narrative a little bit, because chapter 1 of Nehemiah goes straight to Nehemiah, right? Whereas Ezra, it took 6 or 7 chapters to actually get to Ezra, but it really wasn't necessarily about Ezra. It was about the Lord doing a great work and sending the remnant back, keeping his promises to the Judean people, and them rebuilding, the temple, right? And then we have Nehemiah who comes along, and this doesn't negate anything that happens in Ezra. So we have to go into Nehemiah understanding that Ezra and the book of Ezra is still taking place. This is all of those things that happened in Ezra 1 through 10 have happened, yes, but there is still a work in progress. And so Nehemiah then, gets sent back to Jerusalem as part of a request that we see in chapter 1 and 2, and is basically made governor of that area. Now this makes a lot of people mad, and we'll get into all of that, but it's really important to understand, what's going on in the background, and not to necessarily isolate, one book versus another book, one chapter versus another chapter. This is still a continuation of the history. Also, it's really helpful to know that the book of Esther takes place during the book of Ezra, between chapters 6 and 7. So just a little bit more historical if you want to go back and read what takes place in the book of Esther. Essentially there's this bad guy who tries to get the entire Jewish nation wiped out. There's not a Jewish nation at the time, but there's still a remnant of Jews everywhere, here and there. And this guy named Haman just doesn't like him, so he tricks the king into making this decree that on this specific day, we're going to kill all the Jews, right? That's what he says. We're just going to do that, right? And, Queen Esther is put in the place that she is to stop this from happening, and does. And this is why the Jews still celebrate that momentous occasion to this day, right? So there's a lot of history here that kind of takes place in the background that if you're not really paying attention to, you miss. And it provides a lot of context for why these kings are making the decisions that they make. To include, in Nehemiah chapter 2, it talks about the queen sitting on her throne. That queen was Esther. So it helps to know those things. Helps to have that background. So, that's pretty much it. Just a little historical context before we dive into Nehemiah. Love you guys. Have a great day.